So Dick, you were just mentioning something about important ingredients, and we were just talking about Morningstar, the activity of the nonprofit here. And I know another nonprofit had its birth here. But so tell me about these ingredients. It sounds like something magical.
Well, it seems like long before we were here, there were gatherings that worked for people
Yes.
at the level at which they were at and what they could offer as people in their lives and what they could gather from others. And when we started to get into hierarchical structures, which is mostly what we know of this age, it began to be, oh, there's somebody else who's moved up that hierarchy and can tell us what to do. And then we can follow through in response to that and do that.
Yeah.
That is not at all the tribal structure. That's not at all human being structure.
Yeah.
That's not at all our true history of what goes on.
Natural.
So what are the ingredients of that are often forgotten? I think one thing is always that there need to be welcoming places where people are actually living their lives on their everyday with all the complications and confusions and all the good memories that come out of everything.
Check.
And so so that's one essential ingredient, and that's what Eurus did here. Is he said, this is not my landed space, that you cannot go beyond this boundary, or you have to come and knock on the door, or you have to give me a phone call to make it. It was here, and because of that, and because of his openness to it, it created a gathering space. It created a place where anyone could come in, and as Susie said, you could walk in and say, what is this? I don't know. I'm going to listen a little bit because it's fascinating, and then I can start to be a part. So that's an essential piece. The other thing that I think is an ingredient is always the call, kind of a passive, quiet call, but out to the world, saying, this is here. This is what's happening here. This is a little idea. We call it marketing today, but it's such a silly term. Really, it's how can we get the word, the oral word, out to others in the best way, so that they can know that this is a place and certain things are happening here, and they might have something they would like to add to it.
Like whisper in the wind, word of mouth, like a soft, gentle rolling. Not like a big thunder and lightning. We are here.
Sometimes, but
not
very often. But out of that too, I mentioned ley lines. And understanding the concept of ley lines. Ley lines was a regular publication that Lynn Lehman and Marilyn Tonks, who were very involved here as well, Joanne Jones, and it simply would say what was going on in this greater circle around us, so people could find.
Is that one of the ingredients? Would that be like connection?
Yes, there needs to be. And the reason why I think that's such a great title, ley lines, is because ley lines are the energy lines around the earth, the ancient energy lines that connect everything. And so the simple thought with that is this is where the ley lines cross here in what we call the Lehigh Valley. And so we can say together, and join together to get the word out about these things in various ways. Word of mouth, as you said, or simply a listing of this, or
right. Oh, this reminds me a bit of what's that big journal that goes around now? The big one. But this is like a nice condensed little like mini local version.
Because it works.
I love this.
So we were talking a little bit about the Alliance of the Valley. I think that kind of grew out of that as well and became much broader than this.
So with openness, a gentle call, connection, what's the fourth ingredient?
Well, there is definitely the place.
The
somehow,
place.
Since we walk on gravity Earth,
physical place.
There needs to be places, and they should be as much as possible in nature. Because otherwise we get absorbed in what's on the wall, who's
Yeah.
got the microphone?
Right.
So we have to be feeling it at the same
Yeah.
time.
And
And hear the bird song, and
Yes. And so it sounds like you were moving towards, because the four ingredients are here, the space began incubating yet another organic kind of body, the alliance.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I think, Susie, you also have direct experience with like the incubation of the alliance here.
And I would just add too, there's almost always, besides earth, there's almost always water flowing. And yours did such a great job with that, is recognizing where the flow was
Yes.
and building upon that. So I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
interrupted.
That's okay. Yeah. Well, anything you can say about the alliance? Your
My part with the Alliance didn't really start until 2008 when I started coming to steering meetings. However, that's not quite true, because in 2003, my son brought home a directory in a folder that he had gotten at some event that he took part in, and I was so discouraged at that point about the Iraq War, and I felt so isolated, and I was sitting there thinking about how I lived in Stockertown in a little house right on a main road where trucks went by all the time, and I wanted to get the word out somehow. Or I wanted to connect to people so that we could start talking to each other. And then the little booklet comes, and then I open it up, and there's something called the Alliance for Sustainable Communities. And I call the number, and who picks up but yours?
Nice.
And I talked to him about what I'm thinking about. And he at that point, he invited me to come to a steering meeting. Wait. This person who I just called up is inviting me to come to a steering meeting? And so,
openness.
Exactly.
Yes. The call. The connection.
Exactly.
I love it. The place. Come
Yes,
here.
yes. Well, it took me several years to actually come, but at least I knew that there was something happening, and there were people connecting, and that's powerful to know that. And so the directory, I think, has been very powerful ever since the start in that regard.
And so the steering committee was meeting here at Morning Star.
Yes.
And so Morning Star, again, was this place that had the ingredients for this other thing to take form.
A catalyst.
A catalyst. And the Alliance went on to, besides the directory, the Alliance went on to do what? Or be what? Because it's not here physically anymore.
There's other supportive endeavors that operated in quite a natural way, and I think there was also the principle of not being overruled by by one person
And that
one
was
hierarchy.
that was a
It
challenge.
makes it slow, but
And that's been a challenge. And I guess it will continue to be a challenge because we live where we live.
Yeah, and it went off. It sounds like the Alliance kind of left here and went on to something, to a different holding space that wasn't as conducive to
I think that's true.
pancaking.
Perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah.
Somehow the two became less connected.
Okay.
Over time.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that the Alliance did here when they were on this property? There was an office here.
There was an office here.
Yeah. Steering committees. Idea braining.
Community dialogues.
Okay.
Several of them happened here.
Yeah.
probably food too.
Oh, okay.
Right?
What was that?
Food,
Potlucks.
Oh,
potlucks,
yes.
yes.
Potlucks, sure. Yeah, this is before I was very much
Hosting.
involved, but I
Yes.
was aware of that, and I remember the food school connection meetings,
Oh,
and
okay.
there were all kinds of meetings, energy meetings, and there was the energy center that was a plan for a while, and there were permaculture
Yeah.
events. When the spiral herb garden was first built.
Mm.
And I think Steve Hoag was involved in developing, maybe to some degree, developing the garden or doing projects here related to food. But my connection is at that point was a somewhat distant one, and I just kind of had heard about them happening.
Yeah. Thank you both for sharing so much inspirational history. Is there anything else that you would just have to say about Morning Star, or anything you would like to, just like a parting word about, I mean, the channel and the information that we're putting out there right now is all along the lines of how do we preserve the space? How do we take the resources that are here now, that are an outcome of everything you've just said? It's all just been continuing like this, and now we're at a pivotal moment to be able to continue the rolling of that momentum from way back in 1995 till now. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I think I would like to try to remember what we said towards the beginning about Joris's manner in relation to the whole thing of not so much directing as allowing, making his own contribution, but then being able to stand back and let all the pieces come together as they will.
Yeah.
And I think, Susie, you mentioned an important piece too. It has to do with connectors that draw people, because they will not find it as well in other places. And it has to do with the gardens, the growth, the labor together, and working together that actually Joris always allowed and encouraged. Let's do this. This is the next thing we're going to do. I don't know why he's doing, but he's got this idea all down, and it builds. The gathering together. We're going to be doing this. Come down anytime you can. If you can work an hour or two,
and
have fun, and we'll have something. Yeah.
Thank you.
So along with that, I think there are some pieces that weren't there. We have better connectors if we just look closely at them than we have ever had, in my experience, in our lifetime, for broadening and making this place known. I know it can't happen without places like this and people like Joris and the next generation of people who have that ability to just be present and encourage that. But I do think of things like permaculture. I think of the international contacts that are out there now and are really starting to happen and really starting to connect. And rather than being overwhelmed with the media culture, to use those media pieces, like even recording now, to connect to other pieces that have similar thoughts and are doing similar things, because this is being replicated again and again, not in exactly the same way, which is the way the world actually works, is we learn from the different tribes and we share with the different tribes. And there is no Bill Gates at the top of this, or there's none of that. It's on an equal plane, and everyone has something to offer. So if we can keep sharing, this is what's going on, this is what we're talking about. We don't have a perfect plan that we're publishing and putting on the shelf and forgetting, but we're going to keep sharing what we're doing. And it will be around the basic nurturing things that we all need. We need the community of others. We need love and touch, food, water, weather, building, doing things together, learning, all these things together at all ages. Because the next group is coming up right now, as you know.
I'd like to add a story to that, if I could, that keeps coming to my mind, about Joris and his tenacity and his willingness to see all different ways of making something happen. I remember how he helped. Well, he built a window towards the base of the barn for my daughter's bedroom, and I helped in that process. There were a bunch of people helped, but we were rebuilding the wall. And I remember thinking about how, wait a second, I don't know how to build a stone wall. Okay, well, and yours says, well, okay, you just look at the shapes of the stones, and then it looks like it'll fit there. And wait, it's as simple as that? Okay, well, then you have to jiggle it around, and then you just keep, and then all of a sudden, there's a stone wall. And yeah, we're going to, perfect it a little bit after the fact. And then I can build a stone wall. and then how do you lift that beam? How do you lift that root up out of the ground? It must weigh a couple of tons. Well, okay, we have this tripod, and then there's this the cable with the pulley, and then you put it at the top of the tripod, and then all of a sudden you can lift this.
Yes.
And he found ways of doing these seemingly insurmountable things. And what an incredible teacher he was in that regard, as well as so many others. But in that regard, sticks in my mind when we think of the size of the work, the amount of work that has to be done. To do what has to be done, well, there are many of us, and we have the tools.
Yes.
And we have the stones, and all we have to do is use our intelligence and then gather our faith in each other and ourselves.
Yeah.
So
All the resources are there.
thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Susie, and
Yes.
thank you, Dick, very much. I look forward to more conversations
Good.
Thanks, Dick.
like this. Thank you. Pazzo? Oh.
What?
There's so many other